We should really get to the actual content in the stream. So that we don't scare people away.
Yeah.
Anyways.
Yeah.
So, what I'm going to be doing, alright? I've made a modified version of my ArtFight random character wheel, which I just set up for my page, which is pseudo-villains, by the way. Just capitalize the P and the V, same username as here. And here is all the characters that I have not made a ref sheet for, I believe. Hold on. Let me make sure. Nope. He has a ref sheet. Take that off. Okay. These are all of the characters without a ref sheet. Right? I'm just gonna save that. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna roll until this wheel is empty. I will make a ref sheet for each, and I don't know how long this is going to take. But if I don't finish them all by the beginning of ArtFight, I lose. Nothing else bad happens to me, I just lose. Got it?
Yeah.
So we're gonna roll a character in 3, 2, 1. Hell yeah, we got a furry first try! This is wonderful.
The stream right now.
We got Nyx Borealis.
Oh yeah, I drew them!
Yes, you did! And now I'm gonna draw them. Anyways,
Yay.
we're gonna get to drawing. Villains and heroes alike, let me tell the tragic tale of Nyx Borealis. And by that I mean the little tiny bit of story I developed for Nyx over the years of having them as a character, starting at the very beginning. Nyx was originally an Undertale OC called Nyxmas Isolator, actually, and then quickly turned into this drab sorta archer shapeshifter cat who lived in a desert wasteland in a post-apocalyptic world. Very edgy, I know. Now, by then in elementary, sure I had watched some Wildcrats, but I didn't necessarily understand the importance of desert ecosystems and civilizations, so I attributed it to poverty and stuff. They had this deer friend that I'm sure I'll also draw at some point, who also did archery. Now it's only their deer friend who does the archery, because I decided 2 main characters with the same skill set, but one's obviously worse, wasn't good. One thing I couldn't settle on with this Nyxmas character for the longest time, though, was their gender, right? Sometimes I wanted them to be a boy, sometimes I wanted them to be a girl. It was confusing to a kid like me when I made them. Then, years later, I discovered what being non-binary was, and then suddenly I had a word for this character with such a flippy-floppy gender. It was a pretty cool moment in my life, but by then, Nyxmas had actually been developed into a completely different character in the MHA universe. You might know as my avatar here, Shadow. I hadn't touched the original Nyxmas in years, or their universe. I think most of the reason for that was the unintuitive magic system. Originally, it was based off of these Naruto-esque summoning circles, and at one point when I really liked Naruto, it became the system based off of 9-tailed fox spirits within every magic user, which at the time was only these 2, Nyxmas and the deer friend. By the time I got to thinking about them again, I found the ideas I used to have so cringy that I didn't touch them again until recently. Like, maybe 2 years ago recently. Now, today, I've been determined to make their story actually kind of cool. With more than a decade's worth of experience under my belt, it was going to be a lot more cohesive this time. Now, Nixmas didn't make sense as a name to me anymore. I got it from a fantasy name generator, but those fantasy names never gelled with me quite right. So, with my knowledge of Greek mythology, I decided to name them after the primordial goddess of the night, Nyx, who is known for her mists that could obscure and transform. In taking from that idea, trying to show a lighter side to them that ebbs and flows mystically, their last name became Borealis, after the northern lights. Now that their character was overall cooler, I deigned to actually give some life to the world surrounding them. They still lived in a desert, but now I imagine it as like a fantasy Tatooine. And yes, Star Wars is a kind of fantasy in its own right, but I'm thinking Renaissance fantasy. You get me? During the creation of another character called Coda Millimus, which you'll probably see in a later Speedpaint, I came up with the idea that magic in this world was passed down through lineages and taught to youngins as naturally as walking and talking. And specifically, the characters inherit the subset of magic the family had reign over, such as Nyx's shape-shifting, or time control, or fire magic. So there's hypothetically infinite mediums of magic in the world. Awesome for making lots of unique characters, but you can definitely tell the idea was inspired by My Hero Academia. But now the issue is figuring out exactly how it was passed down. At first I thought of scrolls, which adds a nice feel of tradition and family honor, but I wasn't sure I would like that feel. Pretty quickly, and much like MHA, mostly to justify how the characters are all so different but still live in the same society, this power became inherited via genetics and controlled with methods passed down in families. And I thought this would be wonderful for Coda's story, which I planned to become a test comic before Nyx's whole grand hero's journey type story. Will I actually make it? Maybe. Maybe not. We'll see. Now, the design you see here is the newest iteration, made during this stream with hardly any planning. That's why it's taking me so long to figure out all these lines and colors, except for that initial coloring them in part. I just like doing it by hand. I find it relaxing. I decided to theme their design more after a candle, a light in the dark. You'll see once I add all the yellow and orange accents what I mean. And right now I have a small little fixation on the new Deltarune chapters, so this eldritch form they have for when their powers get out of hand is inspired by the Titans. You can kinda see the nine-tailed fox thing coming back here in a way, but I like to think of it here as a nice little reference to past times. I haven't come up with exactly how they get to this form yet, but I'm going to attribute it to their powers being connected to a higher power in their lineage. Sort of like Sun Yi, the ancestor of Mei, who turned into a red panda and turning red, you know? Then MotiveLoss here. Side note, hi MotiveLoss. Glad you could be here for all my ref sheet streams. Motive proposed that Nyx could be a Darkner or a Titan in Deltarune because of this form, which I entertain the idea of. Either way, whatever kind of story you interpret from this, I'm so glad to have this character up on ArtFight. And I hope for as long as they're up there, you guys all have a fun time drawing them. My ArtFight will be linked in the description for easy access, by the way. And if you enjoyed this video, I won't ask anything of you. But I've been hoping to become an actual YouTuber since, well, before Nyx was created. I might not post often, but that makes the posts all the more memorable, right? Anyways, enjoy the rest of the speed paint. After, I'll give a little presentation of the other ref sheets I made before this but didn't record. Want to see the rest of my rep sheets, by the way? Let's go to here. So this is my Percy Jackson AU of MHA Dobby. I like that he's still a villain in this AU. He was originally created for a Percy Jackson themed D&D campaign, but that never panned out, so I just developed him as his own character. He's pretty neat. I like what I did with him. And then, this is Michelle. My precious. She's wonderful. I imagined her with a thick Aussie accent. And technically she's also an MHAOC, but only because I imagine her specifically in the context that she's one of All For One's confidants, but, like, doesn't get along with him very well. You know? You know. And then this is Albie.
Wait.
What?
Remembering the reason why you made the Percy Jackson version of Dobby in the first place.
Yeah?
Somebody was doing a D&D campaign that was Percy Jackson themed, and I had also made a character, and it's basically Papyrus of the AU.
Oh yeah. Motive here had a Papyrus.
Papyrus the Great, literal last name.
Very hyper-specific, and I love you platonically for that as a BNHA connoisseur. Yes, for real. Thank you. I love that. Oh yeah. This is Albie. This is both my main fursona and my first Warrior Cats OC. They used to be albino frost because I was obsessed with albinism and animals as a kid. But now they've just grown to this, and I love them. They're so cute.
Yeah.
And then this is Buggy. This is another fursona that a friend of mine designed for me based off of Shigaraki. He's awesome. I love him. He's so silly. I barely ever draw him, and I'm so glad that I got to draw him for this. Also, shout out to my friend Blasty Blubber Grim. I think that's what you're going by now. I hope you're doing decent. And this is Tao Tomoe. They're also an MHAOC specifically to do with my avatar here, Shadow. Tao is an old friend of Shadow's in the sense that they are not alive anymore and they don't know them anymore. In that sense. Because of a thing that Shadow had to escape from when they were a kid. There's more details in Tao's little ArtFight profile. But yeah. It's hard to describe on stream, so I'm just like, Yeah. There's so many elements to it. It's crazy.
I will ask one thing for you to describe. How does their face work?
Mushy. It's like, think of claymation.
Mushy. They look
think of slow motion
cloth,
claymation.
though. They look like cloth.
Well, yeah, in the same way that clay can be draped over something.
Okay, so it's like
You know those, like, ceramics TikToks that are occasionally where it's like really thin
okay.
clay? It's like that.
So it's not as paper thin as the drawing uh
No.
makes it look, right?
No, it's pretty thick.
Okay. Okay, because it looked like they had a cloth over their head and it made me confused about their quirk.
uh it's
But
hard
anyway,
to
thank you for
make it's hard to make a
yeah.
clay person with this aesthetic. Okay?
That's fair. That's
And
fair.
yes, Akodi, I am telling you that I want you to suffer. Anyways, and then Nyx. This is all I've gotten done so far.
Nick.
I love everyone. I love them so much. I rarely do anything with them, but I love them.
Oh.
Man, I really cooked with Nyx. And Dobby here. I mean, look at that devastating burn scar. It's awesome.